G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Christie David. I run a mortgage broking business called Atelier Wealth, where we help families build intergenerational wealth through making confident property decisions. When I say confident and property decisions, probably one thing that has stirred a lot of discussion, debate, and is almost quite polarizing is when people go to buy brand new apartments or properties off the plan. Now, there's so many pundits that will say, this is the worst thing that you can do. However, it's not a blanket rule, and we have seen it for some of our clients who have done quite well, and it may suit them at a time in their lives when buying a property off the plan or buying something new can be financially rewarding. And so this is the discussion I want to blow wide open today with Mitchell Meyer. Welcome to the show, Mitchell. How you doing?
Good, mate. Yeah, good. Thank you very much for having me.
So Sales and Operation Manager for Boston Projects.
Correct.
However, we've had the privilege of knowing each other for quite some time.
We have.
Seen you grow on your journey. I think I'd say almost solo to couple to first child and now expecting the second, mate. Second grads.
Yeah, correct. Thank you very much. It's we haven't known each other for a little while now.
Yeah.
Been through a lot of my property journey in that time too.
Yeah, mate. It's and thank you very much. I mean, it's been great to work alongside you. Great to work with a number of mutual clients. But I think for us today, it's really having this open chat around the whole brand new off the plan debate, because you probably have this conversation plenty of times. So
every day.
So before we jump into it, just want to share a little bit about yourself, your own journey, and what I call the 3 Ps about yourself personally, about yourself professionally, and your journey now with Boston Projects, for example. And you made the previous iteration of the brand was Boston Marketing.
Correct.
And then I guess you've lived and breathed as an investor as well. So whatever you're comfortable to share.
I mean, if I look at it personally, I mean, I got into property when I was quite young. I had a background in finance. I was an accountant, and got a bit of exposure to the finance world. And, although accounting wasn't for me, I found property quite early and I really thoroughly enjoy it. I've been lucky to find a partner and a wife that, supports that career and that lifestyle as well. And, I'm trying to get to a point where, as you said, build that intergenerational wealth, almost exclusively through property.
Correct.
And it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And, I'll teach my daughter about it and our next child that's on its way. And, as part of that journey, I've ultimately found myself here at Boston Projects, where, I started off as part of the sales team and running the sales team, and now as, sales and operations manager running, the day-to-day aspects of the business, but also keeping that really strong insight over the sales team as well, and having these conversations, speaking with buyers every day about, what they're fearful of, what they're excited about. Which I find really, really helpful with talking to our developer clients as well. And then from the property side, for me personally, I mean, I've bought, lots of investment properties. I've bought properties that are off the plan. I've bought established. I've bought properties that needed a lot of work and done, some fairly significant renovations as well. And, I'm all in on property. I love everything about it. I'm happy to talk about it all day, every day. And it's something that, I see, being a big part of my life forever. Yeah,
exactly. And you have made decisions that have had to help you move forward, whether it's being pushed around borrowing capacity or valuations, for example. What I love about you is that you don't take no for an answer. Yeah. So if it's not now, it's like, well, what needs to happen to get to that next stage as well, which is probably one of the good hallmarks of a tenacious and ambitious investor. Just don't let anything get in the way as well. So talk me through. So why do you think off the plan properties have got a bad name or a bad rap in the past, do you think?
I mean, I think, historically there has been, some aspects of purchasing off the plan that have not been great. There's been times in the past where, whether it be, contract law or financial law, where things were a little bit loose, and there was a whole heap of grey area. And unfortunately, there were some players in the market that took advantage of that, and it resulted in some, negative impacts on people, whether that be building quality or valuation, whatever it might have been. So there's definitely some, some stigma in the air around it. I mean, obviously everyone's heard of your disaster stories like an Opal Tower or a Mascot Tower.
Correct.
And that sort of tainted the entire industry. Whereas in reality, and with a lot of the changes that have been made in recent times, I think back to, the change to contract law in, 2019.
Is that around, say, sunset clauses and some of the changes?
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, there was probably one, I'm going to say Walleye Creek from memory would be the one where it got to a sunset date and the developers probably able to
It was a really interesting one. It was on the border. It was actually more kind of like Surrey Hills.
Yeah, okay.
And correct. I mean, what happened there was that it got to a point where, values had increased so much that the developer decided that they just wouldn't finish construction, hit sunset date and, let everyone out of their contracts and resell them at a higher price point.
Right.
That's not possible anymore. That's one of the key things that's changed. And I spend a lot of part of my day, and we're talking with buyers, educating them on that.
Yeah.
It's not that simple anymore. And the way that sunset clauses and sunset dates are written into contracts now is that they're actually all in favour of the purchaser.
Nice.
Whereas previously they were, almost exclusively in favour of the vendor.
And even I think sizing was another issue as well, where they had this discretion to reduce sizing to a certain percentage and not have to tell you, or you felt the hardware went in to measure the property as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always been in contract what's known as a minor variation clause, but they were typically at a higher margin. Now it's just all down to, what we or the purchaser would ultimately see as a material consideration. So really the size change, or if there is any size change, is kind of irrelevant. It's if there is any change, we need to let you know.
Yeah.
If we deem it, or you would deem it to be a material consideration on whether or not you've purchased.
Yeah, spot on. There was another one you mentioned, valuations.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that will rear its ugly head from time to time.
Correct.
Which I think it's one of those things, it's, what's the word for it? Caveat emptor, like buyer beware. It's almost one of those things you have to go in, you're entering into a contract, you have to then be aware what may be the market conditions in a few years' time, potentially when this property goes to settle. Is that a fair one?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, valuations is an ugly word that gets thrown around just with off the plan. But, you buy a property on a Saturday at auction, then it's very similar to buying off the plan in a sense that the val still has to get done. The bank may not agree with what you've paid.
Yeah.
So, I think valuations is a tough one. We have no way of ever knowing what, the market will be like in 6, 12, 18 or 24 months.
Yep.
It could be the same, might go up a little bit, might go down a little bit.
You might ride the actual wave of it and the market's picked up and you benefit off the back of that.
Exactly right. But I mean, I think so long as when you head into it, you're comfortable at the time, you believe in the value at the time, you don't feel like, the vendor is trying to, overstretch, and push the prices too much. If you're comfortable on the day, then you're comfortable, in a few years' time, and that's just one of the things that you need to have a consideration for, and leave a bit of a buffer in your, in your purchasing power.
Which then comes to the financing part, which that's obviously our world, and we get to see people that maybe have that little bit of world of pain because I bought the property 2-3 years ago, I have to pay it now, it's just coming up for completion. I've either become self-employed, I've changed roles, I've taken a maybe pay cut, we've had a child, which maybe reduces our borrowing capacity. So life has got in the way, and it's like, boom. Now we've actually got very few options around financing, or it's become a stress or a moot point to settle. Yeah. And you've got a very, very small window to settle and to try and get yourself organised. So I guess that's, from my perspective, it's having that conversation and being in touch with probably your banker or broker going, when are we due for completion? Okay, if this keeps drawing out past the date or the ideal date, it's knowing what are my options here, given that what are my life changes compared to when I entered into the contract as well.
Yeah. And I mean, that works in two ways. I mean, I think most of the time, people would hope that if they, in 12 months or 2 years' time, they were actually, a step ahead, in their careers or their lives. So, what I see a lot of the time is people actually thought when they purchased they could borrow, say, $600,000. But now 2 years down the track, they've, had a promotion or got a pay rise, and now it's, $650,000 or $700,000 or $750,000. And again, it's this whole thing. You only ever hear the negative stories, but there are so many positive stories that we hear from people every single day where, this was actually something that they did and they thought was really, really beneficial to their, financial lives moving forward. I think to people that I speak to all the time about, they purchased 2 years ago, they put up a 10% deposit. They've spent the last 2 years saving. They've got the stamp duty. They've saved another 10%. Now they're not paying LMI.
Correct.
Whereas if they purchased something back then, 2 years ago, they would have actually been in a lesser financial position through having to pay those lenders' mortgage insurances and things like that.
Spot on. And you're right. We see it time and time again for our own clients that have bought well. And again, it's not the popular view, which is to buy off the plan, but some clients have done well. And that's why I keep going back to that and approach to preface it at the start. This is purely a general discussion. So it's not intended to give advice. If you do need advice, please seek out a professional. But this is the nature of this conversation. So we're trying to debunk a little bit of the stigma attached to buying off the plan. One of the, I guess, again, contentious viewpoints has been probably how some off the plans were sold, whether that was kickbacks, whether that was through inflated property prices, for example, so they can build in the marketing costs and some of those down the line costs attached to advertising. So take me through that. And I guess, again, you're probably quite open and aware of some of the sales tactics that come around some projects versus maybe not other projects. Because properties have to get sold, whether it's going through a real estate agent or through an agency as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I always, but personally when I'm investing, what I look for is, what I call kind of, things like red flags. Anything that the developer is giving away for free is something that's been baked into the price.
Okay.
I would always be very wary of buying anything that's got, big deals or big discounts attached to it, because for me, it's not so much the price point, but it's, nobody, regardless of if they're selling property, clothes, cars, whatever it might be, likes to give anything away for free.
Yeah.
So if they are, why are they doing that? There's an inherent problem in the product in the first place that nobody wants to buy it at its true market value.
Yeah.
So it has to be discounted in order to get any interest.
Yeah, fair enough.
So when I'm purchasing, when I'm speaking to our buyers on a day-to-day, and people are always looking for discounts or advantages or, developer kickbacks or rental guarantees or all those sorts of things. If those things are being offered, for me, that makes me think, okay, why? Why are they offering that in the first place?
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't be doing it if the product was flying off the shelves or if it was meeting the demand of the market.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, perfect. So going through due diligence then, so say you've got an investor that say, look, I'm very open to buying a brand new property off the plan, for example, benefits may come with depreciation, or like we're saying, it's buying into an emerging market that has time to then come up for completion. How do you sort out the good, the great, and then the ugly potential? Like how would you go through a bit of a filter?
For me, I think, like anything that you're buying, you're always looking for reputation.
Yeah. Okay.
So, if you're really looking at a product and you think that it's something that you really like to buy, I would encourage everybody to look into that product. Who made it? What have they made in the past? Is it clothes? Is it sunglasses? Is it cars? Or is it apartments? Is it property? Is it houses?
Which when you talk about cars, it's funny. So the amount of clients that, again, we do asset finance and they'll research the hell out of the car.
Yeah.
They'll know everything about it. They maybe bought. But when it comes to developers or buying a property, they've got no idea on the developer's track record or the recent projects that they've done as well.
And in some instances, the builder is not necessarily attached to the developer. They're separate companies. Yes, the developer is really important.
Yeah.
What's their reputation like? Do they deliver what they promise?
Yeah.
But ultimately, who's the builder? And what's their reputation? What have they constructed in the past couple of years?
Yeah, okay.
And that is getting easier, and it will be more transparent now that we've got this new building commissioner here in New South Wales, whose sole focus really is to bring more attention to the property development and construction industry, and provide people with that clarity and comfort around new developers and new builders and new projects moving forward. Okay,
so take me through the building commissioner. What's kind of the mandate for this rollout, and how do we know it's kind of at a right caliber as opposed to another government initiative, for example?
I mean, I think the whole reason the building commissioner was brought on, was as a result of some of the things we spoke about before. You had issues around Opal Tower, Mascot Tower, those sorts of things. And for people in the development industry, I actually think the building commissioner is extremely positive, because what it's going to do is take all the people that are already at the top of their industry, make it incredibly well known, and actually probably make our job a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And it's going to take all the people that are, not as professional, not as clear cut.
Quick buck.
Correct. And they're going to struggle, and ultimately they won't get certified. The role of the building commissioner now is to oversee all construction in the whole state of New South Wales. And he has full power and autonomy to influence that industry as he sees fit.
Yeah, wow.
So he is going site to site, checking on the work that people are doing. He's shutting down sites daily. He's making people redo waterproofing. He's making people redo fire safety assessments to get it to the standard that it should be at always. What he's also developed is what's called an ICERT rating, which is an independent rating where he plans to rate every developer and every builder in the state, like you would see on an electrical appliance that has an energy efficiency rating. 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, or 5 stars. And all developers and builders in the state of New South Wales over the next couple of years will have one of those. And you sign up to the system. You want to be rated, you get your rating, and ultimately, if you're at the top of the pile, then people are going to want to buy from you.
Correct.
And it means that you're ticking all those quality boxes. Everything that you're doing is in the best interests of ultimately the end purchaser. And the building commissioner, his role is to oversee that process.
Which again, that's quite a game changer when you talk about some of the issues that we've had in the past.
Correct.
I mean, you mentioned around Opal, and that's probably something that we're seeing now banks starting to push back on is anything that's Strated is what's the cladding like, and if it's not, they want to see a report from the strata around some cladding clarity, for example. And that's, again, a debate, which is, do I buy established or do I buy something brand new? Some of the established properties that we've now got have either got structural issues because they're starting to get old, massive sinking funds as well. So again, this is a very open chat around when you're buying a unit or apartment, for example, and you're trying to decipher, is it established or is it brand new? When you're going established, it's what are some of the issues around sinking fund? How well is it managed, for example? Sure, you may not have the whiz-bang elements like a gym or a swimming pool or the elevators, but there could be asbestos issues that we're seeing when people do some renovation works for older units. Then there's been the cladding that's got to get redone, which is
which is a substantial cost.
Yeah, correct.
There's never been a better time in this country, in this state, to buy a brand new property. With all the changes that have happened to, as I said, the contractual side of things with the building commissioner, it is actually a really genuine time for people that want to make a purchasing decision to buy something new. I mean, the cladding, as you mentioned, with the changes to those laws, we're now no longer allowed to build apartments that have that core, that flammable core that takes you above a certain threshold. And that's signed off at construction. You can't get an occupation certificate now without showing that your building doesn't have any cladding above that flammable threshold. And that's what the banks ask for. They ask for that sign off, and that's what's provided. So nobody is building those things anymore simply because they can't get people to settle with them in the building.
Fair enough. Perfect. And then for someone looking to buy, what smart questions, when you're sitting down with them and you're going, look, this is the project and this is what's happening, for example, what smart questions should a potential buyer be asking of you, someone that's at the coalface?
That's a really good one. I mean, for me, I always find the people that are the most in tune with what they're doing are people that ask the questions that we spoke about before. Who's the developer? Who's the builder? They really want to know their track record. They want to understand what they've done, what they've delivered in the past. I've got a lot of people now asking if they can see previous buildings of these developers.
Nice.
Which is great, and a lot of the developers that we work for have the ability for us to be able to take people through those buildings. They've got many projects, on the go, and we can take people through and show them different stages of construction, show them things that are recently completed or might have been completed 12 or 18 or 24 months ago. Have a look at a building that was done 10 years ago by the same builder. What does the facade look like? Has the building held up?
Nice.
That for me is a really, really good one. Other, intelligent questions that I think people, should be asking is, well, what are the future-proofing mechanisms that are going into the building at the minute? So how has, EV charging, been factored in? What kind of smart home automation is included in the particular apartment itself? How is the hot water and the ducting of your range hoods and those sorts of things done as well? They're the kinds of things that I would be looking for, and they're the kinds of things that I find when people ask those questions, they're really in touch with the process, and they're people that genuinely understand, what they're getting themselves into, what the decision that they're about to make. And most of the time you find that actually gives them a lot of comfort, because developers and builders are getting very good at doing those things.
Yeah.
Particularly the ones that, as I said, have those really solid track records and and really, really good foundations.
Yeah. And to that point, I feel like where we're evolving, which is a really, I guess, mature sign of the industry, is now it's not just about building a block of units and going, great, sell them. I feel like we're moving to a little bit more like community focus, mixed use. You see some great cafes. It's building the area up, for example. I mean, I was in Erskineville the other weekend and I was like, it feels like they've built a thriving little community here. I won't say little, it's quite big what they've done there. I had a look at a project up at, I think Stockland's building out of Gold Coast, and they're putting schools in, for example. That's just forward planning, because you build that many properties.
Correct.
You need schooling, you need infrastructure.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of going to Melrose Park a while ago. We talk about, I saw the gym, for example, yoga rooms, the way the gardens are set up with lavender, for example, to enhance that standard of living. So gone are the days that it was like a big block unit and it was like, that's where it was tomorrow's ghetto. Now it's like, actually, we're trying to build a community here, has a community hall, for example, has the facilities. I can't remember who it was, but now they've got like media rooms and then shared kitchen spaces if you want to get a private chef in, for example. They're actually some really good hallmarks for like a quality development. Wine cellars. Some houses don't even have that.
Correct. I think it's about giving people what they want. There's this conversation for me around, house prices and where they're going. And houses are standalone freestanding dwellings are unaffordable for the majority of Australians. They've gone, they've increased so substantially that people need to turn their attention to things that are more affordable.
That's right.
And that are smaller dwellings. They're apartments, they're townhouses, whatever they may be. And that's what the majority of Australians are going to buy in years to come as freestanding dwellings continue to increase in price, but also as there are more migrants into the country. And that's what people want and need to live in. I feel the problem in Australia is that historically high density living may not have been done that well, and which is why there's a bit of a negative stigma around it. But
the great Australian dream was having a freestanding house.
Correct.
So I still feel like the dream is still alive. It's just, it may be a different dream for some people as well.
The reality of it is that we just need to get better at doing high density living. And a big part of that is those things that you were saying, is giving people the community that they crave in something that may be higher density. So that's the things like more green open space. The great Australian dream used to be a 1/4 acre block with a big backyard. Well, we can still give people that. It's just not literally on their back door. They go down the elevator and it's in the common space.
Correct.
There's no reason why people can't still have that. There's no reason why people can't have access to shops on their doorstep, which they wouldn't actually be able to get, in the heart of the suburbs.
Absolutely.
We can actually now give people a significantly better level of amenity and, in my opinion, a better lifestyle in something that's higher density. We just need to get past some of those negative connotations that have been associated with it in the past and do it better. There's still more work to do, but I feel like developers and builders in Australia are getting much better at giving people that lifestyle that they crave.
No, really well said. I appreciate that, because we've seen a lot more, say, 3-bedroom units become in demand or in vogue as, smaller families or maybe downsizers, for example, so want that little bit of space. I call it the best of both worlds. Like you're saying, still give me access to this space, but I can lock it, leave it, and now we can travel again. I can travel, or it's low on maintenance, for example. There's health issues or busy corporate lives, for example, as well. That's location, amenities, and some of the styling that comes with it as well.
No, absolutely. I completely agree.
Perfect. And one last question. So as part of your framework, when you're talking to developers and potentially looking to take some of their projects on, for example, to then market and project manage and sell, what makes the cut, what doesn't make the cut as well?
For us, we're looking for people that ultimately we believe in their vision. Do they have a vision to bring a project to life that's going to substantially benefit the people that they're selling it to? That's number one. Are they a tier 1 builder, developer, someone with a solid track record, someone, that we understand, and they believe in the product first and foremost. They want to deliver what they promise. That for us is really, really important. You know, and then we look at ultimately what, you know, they're hoping to achieve out of each sale. Is it something that we believe meets the market? You know, if there's a product there that meets the market in terms of price, location, amenity, then it's absolutely something that we want to be involved in, and it's something that we want to help, you know, help the developer bring their vision to life, you know. And I love being there on the very first day the project goes to market, and I love being there on the day the very last one settles, and, you know, you hand over those keys to the last person that moves in. And that's a really satisfying part of our job, particularly with larger scale projects, when you get to see an entire community really be built, you know, out of the ground, what was, you know, more than likely something that was quite underutilized in terms of its original land value.
Yeah, nice one. I appreciate that, Mitchell. Thank you so much. And I hope this discussion, I'm not here to change your mind. If you're off the belief that off the plan or brand new apartments aren't your jam, then stick to the poison, stick to your game plan that works. If you've been a little bit undecided, I hope that this conversation has at least given you a different perspective and then taught you to not rule it out, but maybe just do your own due diligence and go through that research phase for yourself as well. And if you do want to contact Mitchell, we'll include the details and a link to his bio, and also the details around Boston projects as well. So Mitchell, I want to say thank you very much for your energy and your insights as well, mate. Really appreciate it and wish you every success from a family perspective, and
thank you very much.
Personal life, professional life as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And yeah, it was great to be here. And yeah, if anyone's just got any general questions, we're more than happy to speak to anyone and answer any questions about the industry at any time.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks very much. That's a wrap for another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. If you found it helpful, we'd love a review so more people can kind of access our insights and be part of this community as well. And if you want to give us a rating as well, we'd love that too. Until next time, take care.